All right, now, this brain that we have is an amazing thing. You take someone like Usain Bolt. He is 1.95 meters of pure, superb human flesh. Okay, he is an adult, an athlete through and through. Absolute superb athlete. He is the only person, or not the only person, I think he's the first person to break a 100-meter, 10-second 100-meter. He ran it in 9.68, I think, and then he broke it again. And he did it in 9.5 seconds. I mean, how phenomenal is that? And everyone says, wow, he's an amazing athlete. Yeah, but you know what? He's got an amazing brain. And learners, that is what you need to know, is the more you work and the more effort you put into studying, I promise you, the easier your exams are. And it's a matter of practicing every day. Make summaries for yourself. Write just small parts that you can't remember and stick it up on your fridge. And before you open your fridge, make sure you read it and then you open your fridge. Put a table that you must learn or a diagram that you need to learn. Stick it up on the back of a toilet door, because you sit and you're looking at a blank door, or you're looking at your phone. You shouldn't be taking your phone in the toilet with you anyway, because you're going to end up dropping it in the toilet. So you stick it up on the back of the door and read it. And stick something else on this side and something else on that side and read. Go over your work over and over again, and not just for life science, for any subject that you are now working on and learning. So I hope you're taking this time while you are on holiday, which is actually lockdown, which is actually school time, and you are learning. So here we go with the brain. So let me just get my glasses, because, yeah, we're going to do the eye and then you'll know why. Okay, so we're going to draw the brain quickly. Here we go. And we have this part. Okay, this actually comes over a little bit like that. And we have little folds and thingies. And then we go the pituitary gland. And then we have the pons. And then we have the medulla and down. And then over here, this actually looks like a girl with a bad hairdo. But anyway, over here we have, and this is also, this looks like the tree of life. And that goes into there. And then here, I actually need our guys in Cape Town to do a couple of diagrams for me, because wow. But I'm sure you get the gist of what I'm doing here. Okay, right. So what have we got? And then coming through down here. Okay, so this is label B. This is label C. This is D. This is E. And this is A. Okay. Now, you have to know each of these structures. You have to know the name, where they're situated, and their function. Okay? So it doesn't matter what the questions are. I've got this question. This is from Alexa Mofokeng. And then I have this one from Maduo, M-A-D-U-O, Maduo. So I'm going to do these two questions together, because it's the same brain and it's the same questions. Okay, so this structure here, this A structure, is the medulla oblongata. You can't just call it the medulla, because medulla means middle. So its proper name is medulla oblongata, and you can't abbreviate it. So please make sure that you can spell it. So medulla oblongata, and then B is the cerebellum, and C is we looked at it just now in our joke, corpus callosum. And D is, in Afrikaans, D is called the little brain. Okay, die klein brain. So little brain, and what would be the little version of cerebrum? It would be the cerebellum. Okay, so you've got your cerebellum. What am I? You see, talking and writing is a bit of a coordination issue. Okay, so we got our cerebellum. This is our little brain. Okay, and we're going to get to all the structures and functions now. And then E is the spinal cord. And then in the center of that spinal cord, I'm going to do another color here. In the center of the spinal cord, that is going to be the spinal canal. And the spinal canal is filled with, let me just move this up a little bit, is filled with cerebral spinal fluid. Okay, cerebral spinal fluid. So when someone has a spinal fusion or something, they are now going to take a needle and they go in at the lumbar vertebra, because that's where nice big gaps are, and then they stick it in there. It's called a lumbar punch. In there, and then they get into that spinal canal, and then or central canal, spinal canal, central canal, and they draw the central, the cerebral spinal fluid out of that. Okay, spinal canal or central canal, both are correct. Okay, now we're going to. I want to do functions. All right. Now, if we look at the medulla oblongata, what are the functions of the medulla oblongata? Oh, you know something we haven't put in here, and I want to, because some of the questions they will over here. That would be the hypothalamus. All right. So we'll get to the hypothalamus just now. So let's do the medulla oblongata. If we look at the medulla oblongata, its main function is to regulate heartbeat rate, and if it regulates your heartbeat rate, it must regulate breathing rate. Okay, and what else does it do? It regulates reflexes. Reflexes, I'm going to put in brackets here, peristalsis. So all your reflex actions are going to work through the medulla oblongata. Why? Because it's at the base of the spine. Okay, so it's at the spinal cord. So it's there. And your reflex actions, and it controls, very important, your heartbeat rate and your breathing rate. Now, you can do exercise, and the minute your heart rate goes up, your breathing rate is going up. And every time your breathing rate goes up, your heart rate will go up. The two of them, they're like two sides of a seesaw. Okay, if the one goes up, the other one's going to go down. Oh, no, it won't be. Seesaw's a bad example. It's like your running shorts. If you go running, your running shorts go with you. Okay, so the two of them work hand in hand. Heart rate goes up, breathing rate goes up. Heart rate comes down, breathing rate comes down. Okay, medulla oblongata. Now we go with the cerebrum. The cerebrum is everything here. It's this whole area here. Okay, and the cerebrum is involved, or is part of your brain. It is the main part. It's this whole part here of your brain, and it is made up of gray matter on the outside, okay, and white matter on the inside. And this is important because when we get to the reflex action, it's the other way around. So if you look at the brain, that pinky color of a brain is the gray matter. The white matter is on the inside, and that white matter is where all the fibers of the neurons are. Okay, so that's where all the axons, the myelin sheaths are going to be. Whereas your gray matter is all the cell bodies. Okay, so that's what makes the gray matter is on the outside and that's on the inside, or outside you can say the cortex and inside is the medulla. And it's not the same medulla as here. Medulla means middle. All right, so that's why I said you can't say the medulla. It must be the medulla oblongata. Okay, and this is the medulla of the cerebrum, meaning the inside of the cerebrum. Okay, if we look at the cerebrum, what does it do? So let's just move this up a little bit. The cerebrum's job, okay, is perception of all senses. Okay, so we're talking about sight, smell, hearing, touch, taste, all your senses, okay, are received and perceived in the cerebrum. The cerebrum will get the impulses, it checks it out, it figures out, this is nice or this is horrible, and then you have a response to that. But perception of all your senses are in your cerebrum, okay. The next thing is that this is where your site of higher intelligence is. Okay, site of higher intelligence, your reasoning, and memory. Okay, also your centers for speech, your centers for walking, writing, all of that is in the cerebrum. Okay, and remember the cerebrum is made up of the cortex, which is on the outside, that's your gray matter, and your inside is the medulla, which is the white matter. Okay, something else. When you are stuck on something or you're trying to remember something, what do people do? They go, what was that again? And it's almost as if you are trying, where does your finger go? Your finger goes here. This is your frontal lobe. And this frontal lobe, your temporal lobe, okay? So your temporal lobes are here, frontal lobe is here. But people that try and remember something always go, what was that again? Ah, I got it. And you look up, where are you looking at? You're looking to the top of your brain. Okay, so try this. When you are stuck on a question and you can't remember something, close your eyes, look up with your eyes closed so you don't look like a horror movie, okay? And just tilt your head up. And I promise you now, if you know that answer, if it's somewhere in there, it'll come to the fore. Try it. Who knows? Maybe it helps. But you must have actually learnt it in the first place to remember it, like in an exam situation. Alrighty, so we've got the cerebrum. The cerebrum, perception of all your senses. It's the site for intelligence, and it's for reasoning and for memory. I think some people may lack a little bit here, with an A, reasoning. All right, then the cerebrum, we've sorted. Now, the corpus callosum, what does the corpus callosum do? It holds the left and right hemispheres, in other words, sides of the brain, together. Okay, and it allows for messages to pass from the right side of the body to the left side of the brain, and the left side of the body to the right side of the brain. Okay, the right side of your brain is for happy things and nice things and things that are aesthetic and arty things, whereas your left side of your brain is for reasoning and calculating and working things out, and it's like your math side, whereas your right side of your brain is the side that makes life special. Okay, not that I'm saying that maths people aren't special, please. Okay, so don't take that from what I've just said. Okay, cerebellum. The cerebellum is involved with balance and equilibrium. Okay, so balance, equilibrium, Okay, and I've now run out of space there. So balance, equilibrium, and muscle tone. Okay, so let me explain this. Balance is so that you don't fall on your nose. That's balance. This. Equilibrium is left and right. Okay, so balance, equilibrium. Now, in order to do all of those, I must have muscle tone. Think of a baby, a 5-6 month old baby. That baby doesn't have, it can sit. It's got a little bit of balance. It's got a bit of equilibrium. It's got a cerebellum that's working perfectly, but it doesn't have the muscle tone to keep its head up and its body up. It doesn't have the muscle tone. That's why you'll see little babies sitting there, and they've got their little legs out, and the mommy will put a cushion behind their back, and they'll sit and they'll wiggle, 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 woggle, and then they'll just go klunks and they'll fall over because they don't have the muscle tone. We must have muscle tone in order for balance and equilibrium. All right, then we look at the spinal cord. Well, clearly the spinal cord is very, very special. Why? Because it, and I'm going to just, I need more space here. So the spinal cord, its main job is to conduct all nerve impulses to and from the brain. Okay, that is what's important. So you're going to have a whole bunch of neurons traveling to the brain, to the spinal cord in the brain, and you're going to have a whole bunch of them traveling to the muscles to make the muscles react. Okay, so where's the pathway? It is the spinal cord. So we're going to do this. We're going to say, right, the spinal cord is like a highway. All right, so like a highway, because that highway, if you think of a highway, it's got cars going in this direction and it's got cars going in that direction. Okay, so in the spinal cord, you're going to have the sensory neurons carrying impulses along the spinal cord to the central nervous system in the brain. Okay, I mean the spinal cord in the brain, which is the central nervous system. And you're going to have the motor neurons or multipolar neurons carrying information from the brain to the parts of the body so that you can respond. All right, so they travel in the opposite direction. And the reason we have two sets of neurons to do that job, your afferent neurons or sensory neurons will carry impulses to the spinal cord and to the brain. And your multipolar neurons will carry impulses away from the brain and the spinal cord. Why? Because we don't want a mess. Okay, we want to keep things proper, like a highway. Can you imagine if you have this 4 or 10 lane highway and the cars are all traveling in any direction they want to? It'll be a mess up. Your body is too organized for that. So it conducts impulses or all nerve impulses to and from the brain. That's number one. And number two, it is the point of a reflex. Oh man, Kathy, let me write nicely. Reflex arc. And the difference in a reflex arc and a reflex action. A reflex arc is the path traveled by the impulse. A reflex action is what results from that reflex arc. Okay, so be very careful that you understand the difference between the two. Alrighty, now let's get to our questions. What have I left out? Oh, the hypothalamus. Whoa, hypothalamus, I'm going to just chuck in here, even though it wasn't part of this question, okay, is it regulates. And this is very important. It regulates temperature, temp regulation. It regulates your water balance. Why? Because it regulates ADH or the secretion of ADH. Okay. It regulates smooth muscles. Smooth muscles, and that will be via the autonomic nervous system. All right. It regulates metabolism. And lastly, it regulates the pituitary gland. And by regulating the pituitary gland, it regulates every single one of the the hormones released by the pituitary gland. Okay, so that's why I always say, if someone tells you, oh, I love you with my whole heart, they're talking nonsense. But if they say to you, I love you with my whole hypothalamus, wow, that's a keeper. All right, so let's look at our questions. Alexa, pay attention, hun. It says, the diagram below, here we go, here's our diagram, represents the central nervous system in the human. Okay, then it says identify parts A, C, and D. We've identified all the parts. Okay, but A would have been the medulla oblongata, C would have been the corpus luteum, and D would have been the cerebellum. And then it says state 3 functions of part B. Part B was the cerebrum. Come on, what were the functions of the cerebrum? It is, look, the perception of all senses, okay, or all things that are picked up by senses. So perception of all sense stimulations. It's the, let's put sense stimuli. I hope you can see that. Okay, perception of all sense stimuli, sight for higher intelligence and for reasoning and for memory, all of that. Everything that sits especially here in the higher thing. But now think about it. You've got all your senses are perceived in this head of yours, all right, in that cerebrum. Okay, our next question was, let's look at Medao's question. Okay, Medao, A was your cerebrum, B is your cerebellum, and okay, so let's just do his here. So we're going to make Medao, your A is here, your B is here, and this thing is dragging slowly now, I don't know what I've done, and this is C. Okay, so let's look at your questions. It says, write the letter only of the part which regulates heartbeat and breathing rate. Well, that's a bit of a problem. A is the cerebrum. B. Oh, no, wait. Sorry. So I thought, wow, it's not. Yeah? And this is C. Okay, so regulates heartbeat and breathing rate. Well, it would be C, the medulla oblongata. Coordinates movement while walking. Well, it's going to be the cerebellum. It will be B. Interprets what you see will be the cerebrum. The cerebrum is going to interpret what you see. Has its hemispheres connected by the corpus callosum. It will be A, the cerebrum. And controls balance and equilibrium, the cerebellum. So people, everything that I've put on the screen here is something that will help you learn those labels, okay, and make sure that you know what the function for each is. But the main function of the cerebrum is the perception of all your sense stimuli or stimuli that are received by the senses, okay, and then a whole million other things. Something else. When someone says to you, we only use 10% of our brain. Imagine what we could do if we used 100%. You actually do use 100% of your brain, but you only use about 10% of your brain at a time. So while I'm sitting here teaching you, I'm only using a specific 10% of my brain. I'm not twirling my foot clockwise at the same time as I'm trying to write here. So my brain is focusing on a specific job, which is seeing, hearing, touching. I'm not tasting much because I'm not eating anything, but talking, making sense of, higher intelligence, the little bit I've got, all those things, that equates to about 10%. If you are walking down the passage and you've got your hands in your pockets, you're using about maybe 8 or maybe 10% of your brain, but you're using a different 10%. Even when you're sleeping, your brain is still working. It's the only organ in your body that, in fact, it's one of the main organs that works 24/7. It never gets a break. Okay, and the more you practice with your brain, the better it is. So instead of playing some useless entity game, try and go onto your Tenfold education app, right, and check out, do a quiz. Even if it's a general knowledge quiz, do a quiz. Do something. Get your brain stimulated. Read as much as you can. Even if it's a comic, read. Okay, all of those things keeps your brain active, and the more your brain is like Usain Bolt's body. Okay, you too can have a brain that works like muscle man, because the more you exercise your brain, the better you can study, the better your concentration will be, the better your understanding processes are. All right, school is about so much more than just learning a bunch of facts. It's about teaching you how to learn. It's about teaching you new things all the time. Processes, it's all processing. Okay, before we go for an ad break, though, I just want to quickly do this. I need to just get more screen space here. Remember, we've got the central nervous system, and the central nervous system is the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, and then we have the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system, and I wrote the word out because look here, auto. Auto means involuntary. In other words, there is no thinking. And this system works on all your smooth muscle tissue. Okay? And your autonomic nervous system has two processes which we will get to at a later point. But every organ that you have, let's say your heart, okay, is going to have one set of neurons that come in and another set of neurons that will do the opposite. So the ones that stimulate, and you've got others that will inhibit. I may as well tell you now. This is called the sympathetic. It's sympathetic to you surviving. So S for stimulate, S for sympathetic. And inhibit is your parasympathetic. Okay, so para as a prefix, and Janet will be able to tell you better than I will. Para means to not be able to. So if somebody, for example, is a paraplegic, it means that they have limbs that are not working. Okay, so a parasympathetic means that we don't want that organ to work. We want to make it stop working, so we are going to inhibit it. All right, so we have the sympathetic for stimulating the organ, and the parasympathetic is going to inhibit the program. It's going to inhibit. So if you only remember sympathetic and stimulate, then clearly parasympathetic and inhibit are opposite. Also, it works on your smooth muscle tissue. So your heart, your lungs, your brain tissue actually, your blood vessels. Every blood vessel, your arteries, your veins, are your autonomic nervous system. And then we have our third portion of our nervous system, because all of this is nervous system, is our, and I've just gone absolute autonomic, peripheral. Peripheral nervous system. Okay, and peripheral means on the outside. So if you think that the brain and the spinal cord is the central nervous system, your peripheral nervous system is everything around the brain and the spinal cord. So your peripheral nervous system will be all sense organs and all nerves. Okay, they make up your peripheral nervous system. So if we do a quick little diagram, let's do a little diagram here. Here's our little guy or our girl. So my stick man. Okay, this is the key central nervous system. Then we have the peripheral nervous system. I think my 3-year-old granddaughter definitely draws better than I do. Okay, and your ears, and in there's a tongue, okay, all of that. And then everything around that makes that little body. Okay, all of that, that is your peripheral nervous system. And then autonomic nervous system is the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, the blood vessels, everywhere you have blood vessels, your lymphatic system, all of that makes up your autonomic nervous system. And it's those 3 systems that make up you as a human being. And the nervous system works very closely with the endocrine system. How? Because the hypothalamus controls the pituitary. And the pituitary gland is the master gland. So if the hypothalamus controls the pituitary, and the pituitary controls the secretion of hormones by all the other endocrine glands, is it not fair to say that the hypothalamus actually controls them all? So your central nervous system and your endocrine system work with chemical coordination. They work closely together and they coordinate everything.